So friends, have you seen that Donald Trump re-upped his intentional lies about Georgia state election workers Shaye Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, remember the two Georgia state election workers, Shaye Moss and her mom, Ruby Freeman, that Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani lied about, putting their lives in danger. Remember, they told these absurd lies about how Miss Moss and Miss Freeman were bringing in suitcases full of fraudulent ballots. And friends, these were lies that were disproved, debunked, laid to rest by Donald Trump's own Department of Justice nearly 2 years ago. Lies that were also disproved by Georgia state law enforcement and election officials. Well, now Donald Trump is re-upping his lies, his intentional lies. Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman are now back in the news. They're back in the news for one really good reason and one horrific reason, Donald Trump. But let's start with the really good reason, because friends, we could all use a little bit of good, right? I saw this tweet today from my friend Scott McFarlane. President Biden is expected to award Presidential Citizen Medals for service on January 6th and its aftermath, including to police officer Eugene Goodman, D.C. police officers Michael Fanone and Daniel Hodges, Capitol police officers Harry Dunn and Aquilino Gonell, and Georgia election workers Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss. Good news indeed, because all of those people who will receive those presidential medals are, in their own way, American heroes. They are also all victims of the crimes of Donald Trump. Now let's turn to the far less good reason that we are talking about Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman again. And yes, it's because Donald Trump is reviving his intentional lies about those two women. Here's the new reporting from MSNBC. Headline: Trump's offensive against Ruby Freeman reaches an ugly new level. As Donald Trump renews his offensive against an innocent election worker in Georgia, remember that his own team told him these claims weren't true. And that article begins, around midnight last night, for reasons that aren't yet clear, Donald Trump used his social media platform to launch a new offensive against an old perceived foe. It started with this unfortunate missive. Wow, has anybody seen the Ruby Freeman contradictions of her sworn testimony? Now this is big stuff. Look what was captured by Cobb County Police body cameras on January 4, 2021. Now it gets really bad. Soon after that post, the former president published another item accusing Freeman of election crimes, followed by a third missive in which the Republican asked, what will the great state of Georgia do with the Ruby Freeman mess? Trump concluded that he's battling the evils and treachery of the radical left monsters who want to see America die. Both items, Trump's posts, refer to suitcases filled with ballots that Trump believes Freeman opened, all as part of the crime that was committed only in his, Trump's, imagination. Translation there was no crime. It was all BS, and Trump knew it. The article continues. In fact, unhinged Republicans claim to have proof in the form of a video in which Moss and Freeman could be seen doing their jobs. What conspiracy theorists said were suitcases of bogus ballots were really just standard boxes used locally to transport actual ballots. The video, which showed nothing nefarious or untoward, nevertheless made the rounds in conservative media and in far-right circles, with Republicans insisting that the images showed election fraud. Reality be damned. Trump even put it on screen during one of his post-defeat political rallies. In fact, the former president went after two black women by name repeatedly, which in turn led Republican activists to threaten the women's lives and show up at their homes. So friends, why am I spending so much time on this story about Donald Trump re-upping, reviving what he knows to be intentional lies about Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman? Lies that his own Department of Justice debunked nearly 2 years ago now? Well, it's not for anything it tells us about Donald Trump, right? We know who Donald Trump is. We know what Donald Trump is. But it's for what it tells us about the Department of Justice and the rule of law. The only reason Donald Trump can continue his criminal ways, once again endangering the lives of two election workers, is because for 2 years now, there has been zero overt law enforcement activity to hold Donald Trump accountable for any of his crimes. Not a single indictment, not a single charge of a single member of the command structure of the insurrection, the ruling class criminals. No accountability for Donald Trump, for Mark Meadows, for Rudy Giuliani, for Sidney Powell, for John Eastman, for Jeffrey Clark, or any of the others. Not a single minute of accountability for any of them. And friends, it is because of DOJ's inaction that Donald Trump once again gets to endanger the lives of Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman, and that's not right. The rule of law is not working for Shaye or for Ruby. And you know, friends, it really does make me ask myself, to the Department of Justice, does justice matter? Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.